Hello all and welcome to my guest room. This is where I'm planning to put the new table. There we go. This video is about talking about how to make one of these tables. If you're just starting out, if you want to know what's hard about it, you don't want to pay millions of dollars to get a tutorial. I'll just tell you what I've learned while doing it and how you can learn to do it yourself. It's not very hard, but there are some things that you need to make sure that you do not mess up on the way. And hopefully this video will tell you about that. If you're already a seasoned worker and have a lot of experience, maybe this video can help you point out things that I can learn. So please add stuff to the comment field. I really like you guys doing so. It feels very engaging, and yeah, I hope you will enjoy this journey. As with a lot of other things in life, it's always good to have good supplier and good quality with the items that you work with. I have chosen my supplier mainly because of the simplicity of getting items, but I will not specifically point them out. You will see who they are in the video and find their webpage on your own. I am not affiliated with them in any way, nor have I any intentions of being. So for me, their epoxy is very easy to work with. They have good deals online, and best of all, in Sweden, they are the simplest ones to get a hold of and get the supplies sent home quite fast. In addition to that, the color I use here is also called Jet Black. It's available from the same store, but it's also available from multiple other stores that you could source and find online. That's basically what I'm saying. What I would like to suggest is working with solid colors initially. You can also work with transparent ones, but it's a lot harder to get the transparent colors to actually be transparent also after you have applied your finish and done all the parts that you need to do. Transparent colors also show bubbles quite easy, which means that you need to be really careful, looking continuously all the time if you have bubbles in your workpiece. If you do, pop them with a torch or a heater gun. I normally use a torch, and you will see throughout the video that the torch is being used quite frequently. So for this particular table, I tried to use recycled materials as much as I could. The bottom part of this table that you will see later on is actually an old desk that I used to have. It's IKEA, but I would not consider this IKEA hack. That was basically the only solid piece of that IKEA furniture that I could repurpose for something else. So the tabletop consists of flooring. This is hardwood floor that I have all around this the room where this table is, and it's also the table desktop from the IKEA furniture that I used to have as my workstation, and 2x2 planed legs basically. This table is quite rough. It wobbles a little bit, but that's due to the carpet. So starting out, you don't have to overdo it with metal legs and things like that. But if you're American or live in an area where Amazon is frequently available, there is good options on legs that you could purchase and just attach to your table. That will make it a lot easier to finalize your table, but it requires also an additional financial down payment from your side to actually purchase someone else's work to put on yours. When I made this table, before I started the big pour, I actually whipped up a small batch of black epoxy, similar to the one that I used for the large pour, but just to secure all these pieces to the workpiece that I was working with. So I used wood glue to space them out evenly across the table, and then the epoxy to just permanently attach them so that they would not float when I added the big pour. That's otherwise a big risk, both if you're doing something like this or if you're doing an actual river table, is to clamp your pieces down to whatever surface you're pouring to. Normally the mold would not have a surface that you would later on repurpose for the table. You would normally use something like a melamine board or some flat surface that you would take your river table from. And in this case, as I was using a subboard for this, like this disc top that I mentioned, I could just simply glue it to the desktop and wouldn't have to worry about it. So that was my approach with this. But if I would not have that tabletop to attach them to, I would have to glue them down to the melamine board. And doing that with something like maybe hot glue or maybe what we call quick glue in Sweden, epoxy fast hardening glue. Make sure everything is attached, because they will float. 100% certain. There's a lot of air trapped in all these pieces, and it will make them float when you add the epoxy. On top of that, graining is an issue when you're using a dark color. So make sure to actually close the grain with a transparent color before adding the dark color, because the wood will absorb it. And I will show you a picture, and it should be here. That's how it looks. Basically, the wood sucks the black color in to the grain, and that will not come out when you grind it. So if you find areas where you see the color has penetrated the wood, that's just part of the charm. It's going to be like that, and you will not be able to get it out of there. So be careful with it. If you do not want it to penetrate the wood, then seal the wood with something like top coat, or just varnish might work, or clear epoxy. Clear epoxy would be my go-to suggestion if you're new, because you would have that at hand and you would just have to mix it up and just brush it onto the edges as you're preparing the workpiece. In the video, I have posted statistics throughout the video and showing what content was liked by you guys and what content was not liked by you guys. And the first content that was actually where I saw a major difference was the unmolding of this video, which is being presented right now. And in that statistics, you can clearly see that YouTube is about 4 times as popular when it comes to shorts. I had a longer retention time than I had on TikTok, where on TikTok you would have an estimate of like 3 to 4 seconds before people either drop off or move to the next video, or they like your video. So you have a extremely short span of attention when you're when putting that type of content available on social media platforms. I'm trying to make this like informal. Like, I want to tell people what I'm doing. I also want to talk about it, but at the same time, I do like to watch videos myself, just watching people do stuff. No sound other than possibly some soothing music in the background. So all the shorts were made in that way. There's no one speaking, there's no sound other than music. To be able to reach a table that is actually somewhat flat, you do need to either have the possibility, like Blacktail Studios, for example, where they would go to a local hardware or carpentry where they could mill their tables in a big machine that makes them flat. I do not have that. I do not have a local sander that would be able to do that. So what I did, I built my own sled, also available in my videos, but I would say my videos are not the best in this sense. There are multiple videos showing how to make a proper router sled that actually works. There are also better alternatives by actually buying a functioning one. But if you are, like I am, uh, economically aware, I wouldn't start by buying one. I would start by making one, because they are not very hard to make, they're not very expensive to make, and they actually perform quite good the result. What I think you should focus on if you're going to buy something new to flatten your table, buy a good router bit. The head of the router is what actually gives you the finish. So with all that said, once it was flattened and it was time for uh, grinding and sanding, that was actually the first time I received 2,000 views on my videos. It was puzzling to me, because sanding is the part which I find to be absolutely horrendous and super boring. It takes so much time. It's really not something I enjoy, and I try to make it as quick as possible, but based on the statistics of the video, that video actually made a lot of views, and when looking back at it, it actually drives a lot of the motivation to see that the video is getting views. You see it's being shared, it drives traffic, and people actually care about the content. That makes it like you want to make better content, you want to improve. So that was one of the starting pillars, basically, to starting to work harder to make more and better content for YouTube. So next up was the painted black video, and the reason why I made that video and the reason why I painted it black was I had the black epoxy on top, and I had these hexagons that did not actually go all the way through. So to not contrast with the pine or fir desktop that I have underneath, I wanted to just paint the edge and the bottom, so when looking at the table from the side, you would not see that the table, that it's two different kind of woods, and also that these are just on top. And as I said, as I made it with recycled items, I did not really want to invest in putting like an oak slab underneath here, because that would just ruin the plan of making something, upcycling something to become nicer and better. But that video was also the video where I had most dislikes while I had most likes at the same time. So it actually kind of split the water. It seemed like people did not like me painting it. So we're coming up to the end of this video, and here I made a really bad mistake. I flow coated this table because I thought that was going to basically fix all the issues that I had. I had in two areas, after flattening it with the router, I found areas where there were bubbles that I did not see when the table was hardening. So I had to fill those voids, of course. There are better ways to do it than flow coating it, and I would suggest that if you find areas that you need to flatten or fill out, do not flow coat it, because flow coating resulted in basically this video that's showing right now, where I had to scrape away hundreds of drops that actually pop up after I was done. I thought I was very cautious and very careful when doing it. So, but once it dried, I saw that there were drops everywhere, and that was really time consuming to get rid of. On top of that, we also got those flow lines that was hard to get rid of, since the wood is softer than the epoxy. As you're grinding it, you're actually like removing the wood rather than the flow line. So I used a razor to scrape them flat, and then started grinding again. But it did get rid of the cavities that I wanted to fill. while it created other cavities, because in some areas the surface of the wood would actually absorb the flow coat, and it created big dents, craters basically, that was even harder to get rid of. So then you would see the next video that's showing right now, where I have sanded down the entire surface again, and then I painted it with a quite thick clear coat. Unfortunately, that clear coat together with the epoxy made it look quite like someone poured milk on the table, and I did not like it, so I started grinding again, and I sanded everything down. And for the final layer, I came in with a quite strong acrylic clear coat that it's making the wood slightly yellowish, but that's fine. It looks more, actually a bit more refined than I was expecting it to do. But it's also very, very tough and very hard surface. My other table that I made it about 2 years ago. It doesn't have a single scratch in it. So unless you're going with something like Rubico Harmonico or something like that, just use a good hard 2-component, meaning like acrylic, not water-based, clear coat. That works perfectly fine for me, and it actually self-levels a lot, so you would not see any damages. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, any ideas how I can make it better, there were really good comments stating that if I turn my camera in a certain way, it looks like I'm working up on a wall, when I was doing the firewood challenge, making the cutting board. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it right here. But all those comments actually make me want to improve the videos for you guys, and it makes me feel that you actually care a bit about what I'm saying. So pop a like, subscribe. That makes me super happy. I'm aiming for 1,000 subscribers. That's gonna be a major milestone for me. Even though it's just a small fraction of the YouTube community, that's a big community for my personal sake. 1,000 people watching my videos. It's mind-blowing in all sense. And I really appreciate you guys watching, and thank you for doing so. If you find fun and good projects you would like to see, post them in the comment. I'm up for making more or less anything. But thank you and goodbye.